Hey folks, lyarri here. Today reacting to Defunctland, the history of the terrifying Splash Mountain predecessor, Tales of the Okefenokee. I'll see if I pronounce that right soon. Um, so I went to Islands of Adventure this week, and so I'm kind of like in a roller coaster theme parky mood. And Splash Mountain was like my favorite when I was younger, and I like kind of know about the history of it, but I know there's a lot there, and I'm really curious about what this video gets into, and I want to start reacting to more Defunctland. So, let's go.
And this week from Fantasyland presenting a tribute to Joel Chandler Harris. Now, here is your host, Walt Disney.
For 4 generations, these magical tales of Brer Rabbit and his talking animal friends have delighted the hearts of children of all ages and in all parts of the world, and gave the people outside the South their first knowledge of these beloved animal legends told on the plantations by the old Negro storytellers who had been handing them down from generation to generation. Later in the program, we're going to visit Uncle Remus and listen to one of his stories.
Okay. Yeah, I know there's a lot of Southern history
Let's make ourselves acquainted
with this
with the
ride.
truly gentle and modest man who gave us the beloved Uncle Remus stories, Joel Chandler Harris.
So the story goes in the Okefenokee, as everybody
Okefenokee.
knows in the Okefenokee.
It's a banger.
Mr. Fat Rabbit plays his little joke, he will fool Mr. Fox and Mr. Bear.
Okefenokee. That
Joel
was
Chandler Harris
catchy.
was born in Edenton, Georgia in 1848. His parents were never married, and his father abandoned him shortly after his birth. He was raised by his mother, Mary Ann Harris, in a small cottage owned by the wealthy and generous Dr. Andrew Reed. Mary Ann would work multiple jobs while raising Harris. She would often read him stories of Southern folk heroes, inspiring an interest in literature at a young age. Dr. Reed offered to pay for the young man's tuition, and he sent Harris to the local academy. On top of his illegitimacy, Harris had red hair and a stutter, which would have made him a target of harassment among his classmates. Luckily, Harris established himself as the class clown, earning the respect of the other boys. He was highly skilled at reading and writing, but he wasn't a great student, leading him to drop out of school in order to find work. In 1861, when Harris was 13 years old, the Civil War broke out. A year later, he was hired by a man named Joseph Addison Turner, the owner of a massive plantation near Edenton. Turner requested that Harris help him print the country's only plantation-centric newspaper, The Countryman. Turner became a father figure for the 14-year-old, further educating him on classic literature and helping him evade the draft. He would also allow Harris to publish some of his writings in the paper. During his time at Turner's plantation, Harris would often visit the slaves' quarters. Here, Uncle George Terrell, Old Harbert, and Aunt Chrissy, all African people enslaved by Turner, would tell Harris some of their folk tales. Most of these stories had originated many years earlier in Africa, but had since been passed down and modified. These were often told at night as a means of entertainment and escapism, but more importantly, it was a way to preserve the unique culture and teachings that slaveholders were trying their best to erase.
Folktales are so cool. I don't know. I literally just paused to say that. I also like the whole concept of preserving your history through oral tradition, especially in a time where people weren't taught to read or write or what have you, and like what Defunctland said about actively trying to kind of erase that cultural history and all that. It's really cool. I should probably let the video continue so we can learn about the folktales.
These stories would sometimes teach a lesson or provide an explanation for a natural phenomenon, and they would often employ the use of animals for the roles of the characters. Harris latched onto these stories, and even more so, the storytellers. He felt that he had a connection with the enslaved people because of the hardship he had endured for the way he looked and sounded, despite, in reality, their plights being incomparable in every sense of the word. After the war, Harris would go on to write for several publications. Most notably, in 1876, Harris was hired to write for the Atlanta Constitution. He wrote as an advocate for racial reconciliation and was considered a progressive writer for his region. More notably, Harris began writing a series of short stories for the paper, referred to as the Uncle Remus Tales. Harris recounted the stories told to him by the storytellers that he met on Turner's plantation, combining them into the character Uncle Remus, a kind-hearted, exuberant storyteller that told the tales of a trickster rabbit named Brer Rabbit. The African hare was often used as a character in the folklore of the western and southern regions of the continent, and Harris heard versions of many of these tales. He would publish a few of them in books of his own, compiling them into Uncle Remus, His Songs and His Sayings in 1880, and Nights with Uncle Remus in 1883. These would receive national attention, spreading throughout the country and giving Harris notoriety in the late 19th century. Harris would pass away in 1908 at the age of 59. His work would be influential among other writers at the time, but his legacy would be controversial. He was accused of appropriating African culture, and his role in preserving the folklore is contentious even today. Perhaps most controversial is the dialect he implemented into his stories, which today reads as stereotypical, offensive, and outdated. Although some historians
We's gwine down in the neighborhood tally pussy and we ain't making no fuss about it. Is that supposed to be neither? I can't even tell. I just that's crazy.
believe
Okay.
that it could have been historically accurate based off of documents and accounts from the time. However, the controversial nature of his works would not stop a growing California film production company from adapting a few of the Uncle Remus stories into a feature film.
Okay.
Out of the singing heart of the Old South come the timeless tales of Uncle Remus, forever fresh and new, sparkling with enchanting fantasy. This is motion picture storytelling at its best. Here is entertainment so refreshing, so heart-lifting, so satisfactual, you'll want to see it again and again. And
Did he,
there's
like,
Walt Disney's cartoon fun to give you that zippity-doo-dah feeling.
Walt Disney's
Give
Song
any
of the
money
South
to Uncle
premiered in
Remus?
Atlanta, Georgia on November
like,
12,
you know.
1946. The film was a
Oh,
passion
yes.
project of Disney, who enjoyed the Uncle Remus stories as told by Harris. He had been asking the Harris estate for the film rights since 1939. The film starred Bobby Driscoll as Johnny, a young boy who moves to his grandmother's plantation. His troubles, ranging from his father's absence to local bullies, catch the attention of Uncle Remus, played by James Baskett. It is important to note that in both Harris's tales and Song of the South, Uncle Remus is not a slave, despite his character being based off of the enslaved people Harris met on the Turnwald plantation. Song of the South does little to clarify this, and it is essentially left up to the audience to interpret whether or not Uncle Remus is a sharecropper. The wise storyteller helps the young boy with his problems by recounting the stories of the Briar Patch, with Brer Rabbit evading the clutches of Brer Fox and Brer Bear. These segments are
animation
told
was
through hand-drawn
crazy.
animation,
Yeah, it's so
sometimes
cool.
interacting with the live-action footage. The second hybrid animation in a feature film after 1944's The Three Caballeros. The film is most remembered for these colorful animated sequences and for its signature song, Zippity Doo Dah. The film's premiere in Atlanta, Georgia was the event of the year, with festivities welcoming Disney and the film's main cast. Due to racial segregation in Georgia, James Baskett was not allowed to attend Song of the South's premiere, a horrible situation that made national news. On
That's
top of
crazy.
this, the film was chastised by progressives and critics alike, with many African-American activists pointing out the film's offensive dialect and the glorification of the South and the master-slave relationship. While critics
Spanking
deemed the
Disney.
film boring, they claimed that the live-action segments were too long, and the only moments of true Disney entertainment were during the animated sequences. However, the film was met with glowing reviews in Atlanta, and it proved to be a crowd-pleaser, especially among families. The issues and protests on the film's content would only worsen as the film premiered in the rest of the country, especially in New York and Los Angeles. Walt Disney seemed to anticipate the backlash. At the reception after the film's premiere, Disney reportedly joked that he had to tone down Uncle Remus's dialect despite his claims of historical accuracy. The criticism of the dialect mirrors that of Harris's work, so if nothing else, Disney's adaptation was true to its source material. James Baskett would win an honorary Academy Award for his performance in Song of the South in 1948. Supposedly, Disney urged the Academy's president to consider Baskett for a special award, since Baskett's acting performance was praised by both audiences and critics. At the time, the film did not have a lasting impact on the Walt Disney brand, positive or negative. 10 years later in 1956, a year after the opening of Disneyland, the film would be re-released in theaters for its 10th anniversary. This brought a large marketing campaign for the film. Even 10 years later, the film played well to audiences, and little to no controversy came with its re-release. Despite an entire episode of the Disneyland TV show dedicated to Joel Chandler Harris airing in 1956, the characters from Song of the South were not represented in the parks. Oddly enough, the first time Brer Rabbit, Brer Fox, and Brer Bear would appear in a theme park wouldn't be in Anaheim. It would be right where Harris grew up, and where he first published the Uncle Remus stories.
Oh, this is cool. I love like the old archival footage like this.
So we went in the old plantation cave. You see, everybody is chasing everybody, and anybody's chasing anybody, because the rabbits are running away, and they're running away from the fox, and the fox is running away from the bear.
Six Flags Over Georgia opened on June 16, 1967. The second
I've
Six
actually
Flags
never been
park
to a
after
Six
Six Flags Over
Flags.
Texas. Six Flags Over Georgia was located just west of Atlanta in Austell, Georgia. Similar to its predecessor, the park was themed after the 6 nations that had ruled over Georgia: Spain, France, the United Kingdom, the United States, the state of Georgia, and the Confederate States of America. Each of these had a dedicated land. In the Confederate section, a dark ride named Tales of the Okefenokee, the Old Plantation Legends,
The
took guests on a
Confederate
slow boat
section.
ride through colorful scenes with familiar characters. The ride was named after the Okefenokee swamp located in southern Georgia. While the ride did feature a rabbit, fox, and a bear, Uncle Remus was not present. It is speculated that Six Flags did not have permission to use the characters from Harris's stories, but decided to get as close as they could. The attraction was originally supposed to be housed inside of a recreation of a southern plantation mansion, and guests would board the ride outside of the house through Uncle Remus's cabin. This never came to fruition, and the ride was instead housed inside of a plain-looking building. The 1967 version of Tales of the Okefenokee featured small animated figures with simple movement loops. Guests would board their boats and go on a tour of the swamp, seeing scenes of Brer Rabbit attempting to hit Brer Bear with a bat, a group of rabbits following Brer Bear and Brer Fox, and Brer Rabbit with his tar baby. The tar baby, which years later would become a derogatory racial slur, was a small doll made out of tar in one of the stories told by Harris. This story would
That's
also make
crazy.
its way into one of the animated segments of Song of the South. Little is known about this version of Tales of the Okefenokee, and it would be completely redesigned for the 1968 season. Six Flags commissioned puppeteers and television stars Sid and Marty Krofft to redesign the ride. The new ride featured figures that were much larger than the original version, with more colorful critters similar to the Disney version of the Uncle Remus tales. The ride also had a much clearer storyline. After guests boarded the ride, they would float down the river into a swamp filled with greenery. They would quickly come upon owls sitting in trees and crows singing a short song.
Welcome, neighbor, welcome to the Okefenokee. Welcome, neighbor, welcome. You surely made our day. You should have seen us sitting right here. We thought you would never get here. So glad you did.
It is a banger. I'm kind of like blocking the
This song had a similar
Oops.
theme to How Do You Do from Song of the South, although this could be a coincidence. After the crow's song, the boat came up on Mr. Fox, Mr. Bear, and Mr. Rabbit fishing off of a worn-down plantation. Also in this scene was a
Maybe I should,
bullfrog tanning, a raccoon holding a picnic basket, and a turtle sleeping on his back. After this, the boat entered a cave,
figure out for next
revealing the
videos.
animals having formed a band with various objects. There is also an appearance of a Mrs. Rabbit. A group of carrots sing a song of warning.
Said the rabbit, whatever you do, or else he's gonna wind up in a kennel.
It's like 3 FPS.
Mr. Fox and Mr. Bear are seen holding a sack with Mr. Rabbit inside. However, in the next scene, the Parliament of Owls can be seen circling above Mr. Fox and Mr. Bear, holding a bedsheet to make it appear as a ghost. Mr. Rabbit escapes as Mr. Fox and Mr. Bear are distracted by the terrifying spirit. Mr. Rabbit's escape is confirmed by a scene of the Happy Rabbit family. Mr. Rabbit is milking a cow, while a few of the younger rabbits have made small, ugly puppets of Mr. Bear and Mr. Fox. The crows return to sing another song of warning.
Before you go further, we just thought we'd warn you. There's creatures up ahead that are liable to scorn you.
The boat then enters a windy cave, and a blacklit scene of Mr. Fox and Mr. Bear stashing explosive and weapons reveals their next plan: to murder everyone. The two fire rifles at the boat
Good
as
plan.
it passes. As the ride vehicle exits the cave, it floats under a fallen tree, with Mr. Bear and Mr. Fox at the top holding red lanterns and yelling,
Beware, beware, go back.
The boat then follows a sharp decline, causing a splash. The next scene is even more horrific. A thunderstorm looms above guests as lightning strikes and wind howls. A tree with an evil face falls toward the boat. Owls, less friendly than before, eye the boat from the trees as rattlesnakes swing at the passengers. Closer to the boat, alligators chomp at guests. The boat heads into
That
what looks like
alligator looks
brush,
so
but it is
happy.
quickly revealed to be the briar patch, alleviating the tension as guests pass by a scene of the rabbit family at Christmas, slicing into a large roasted carrot. The children are singing a unique carol.
Okefenokee is an old hokey pokey. Okefenokee is the pride and joy of the dear old South. Black-eyed peas and shut my mouth.
The boat exits the briar patch to clear skies and Mr. Fox and Mr. Bear in the swamp, covered in frogs. The final scene shows Mr. Rabbit hanging a hornet's nest on a pole over Mr. Fox and Mr. Bear, who are running from the swarm. The rest of the family and the
messed
other
up.
animals are having a carnival, and everyone sings the Okefenokee's national anthem.
Okefenokee is an old hokey pokey. But don't let that fool you. There's a lot she can fool you.
The final character is Mrs. Rabbit, who exclaims,
Bye now. Y'all hurry back, you hear?
The boat enters a diamond mine and exits the ride. The updated version of the ride was impressive and elaborate. The settings were dense, and the storytelling techniques implemented in the ride rivaled those found at Disneyland. The attraction became a favorite among guests at the park, especially among those that preferred tamer rides. The ride was also a favorite among teenagers looking for a dark, secluded place to revisit the classic tales of Joel Chandler Harris. Tales
Yeah.
of the Okefenokee also brought Sid and Marty Krofft into the world of theme parks, and the two would open their own indoor amusement park, the
Okay, like that has to be the creepiest place to make out in, no? Like like I get it. I get why it's useful, but like you're just surrounded by animatronics staring at you. But where? But where? Like, okay.
World of Sid and Marty Krofft in Atlanta, Georgia, less than a decade after working on Tales of the Okefenokee. Unfortunately, the second version of Tales of the Okefenokee would only last 13 seasons at Six Flags Over Georgia, closing at the end of the 1980 season. The crude animated figures had a short lifespan, and the ride quickly deteriorated, with fewer and fewer effects operating. Some of the
Aw.
figures, such as a few of the singing carrots, were removed completely. The humidity that accumulated in the show building was taking a toll on the ride's murals and the fur of the figures. And guests jumping off of the slow-moving boats would often steal things such as the clothes of the characters and, in one instance, the rabbit's marionette of Brer Bear. The audio
That's
department
fucked
for the
up.
entire park was located right behind the walls of the Christmas scene, which had a very short audio loop on the Rabbit family's Christmas song.
That's so
Supposedly, this
creepy.
drove the audio technicians crazy, and they eventually just turned off the song, leaving that section of the ride silent. Perhaps the biggest reason for the attraction's downfall
support
was a
them.
fire in its last season of operation. One of the singing carrots went up in flames due to an interior coil rapidly heating after the data machinery inside got stuck. This destroyed the entirety of the singing carrot scene, and the flames encroached on the surrounding scenes as well before it could be put out by park employees. In order to fill the space left by the fire, singing watermelons from
so
the end of the
funny
ride were moved to
looking.
the beginning, but this was merely a quick fix. The fire was the final nail in the coffin for the ride, and Six Flags made plans to replace it in the off-season in late 1980 and early 1981. In order to do this, they commissioned the Lark Amusement Ride Design Company and former Imagineers Gary Goddard and Albertino to completely redesign the ride. The only thing that would remain was the track and water systems. The rest would be completely destroyed. The figures were ripped from their place, mangled, and placed in the garbage. A few of the murals were given to a local theater company, and the neon lighting effect from the storm scene was planned to be reused in the new ride, but construction crews accidentally broke it during the conversion. The ride building was
Aw.
bulldozed, and Tales of the Okefenokee was completely leveled, with only a few elements of the track layout and ground floor remaining. The construction crew worked throughout the off-season to create the ride's replacement, to be named the Monster Plantation. Incredibly, they were able to complete the ride before Six Flags Over Georgia's 1981 operating season. The new ride took guests on a boat ride through a southern plantation house filled with animatronics of monsters, some friendly and some scary. The ride would last
That
until the end of the
sounds
2008
so
operating
creepy.
season, ending its 28-year run at the park. Goddard would be brought back to revamp the ride, which would remain similar to the Monster Plantation, but with almost every element modernized. The new version of the ride opened in May of 2009, renamed the Monster House. While Tales of the Okefenokee no longer entertains guests today, a ride with a very similar concept does, one that a majority of Americans are familiar with.
Yes, I have been to this.
On October 1st, 1971, the Magic Kingdom in the Walt Disney World Resort opened its gates
I
to
rode
guests.
this so much
An
as a
original
kid.
attraction in the new park was the Mickey Mouse Revue, an animatronic show featuring numerous animatronic characters from popular Disney animations singing classic songs from their films. Included was a rendition of Zippity Doo-Dah sung by Brer Fox, Brer Bear, and Brer Rabbit. This would be the first prominent appearance of the characters in the parks. The very next year, Song of the South was re-released in theaters. This theatrical campaign shifted the focus of the film from the live-action storyline to the cartoon characters, prominently featuring Brer Fox, Brer Bear, and
Laughing
Brer Rabbit in
plates.
marketing material. The film would be re-released again in 1973 as part of the 50th anniversary of Walt Disney Animation. The film would receive another re-release in 1980, this time to
That's a
celebrate the
lot.
100th anniversary of Joel Chandler Harris's publishing of the Uncle Remus stories. In 1986, Song of the South would be re-released once again for its 40th anniversary. This theatrical run was surprisingly successful for box office revenue, but the film was not aging well at all. More critics than ever were pointing to the film's problematic elements, and the dialect used by Uncle Remus no longer sparked debate of historical accuracy. Instead, it was simply deemed one of the many racist elements of what was quickly becoming Disney's most controversial film. However, even the toughest critic at the time couldn't help but praise the film's animated sequences,
They
which
are
were just as
animated
fun and
well.
bright as when they were released 40 years prior. Despite the film as a whole being shrouded in controversy, the Critters of the Briar Patch were as popular as ever, and the film's award-winning song, Zippity Doo-Dah, was considered the Walt Disney Company's national anthem. This was all great news for Walt Disney Imagineering, as they had been developing an attraction for Disneyland based off of the film's cartoon segments throughout the mid-80s.
This like perspective is so cool. Like, I really love like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, like all of those movies where like it was side by side person and animation were so cool to me when I was younger. I also remember like the that Warner Bros. Movie. Oh my god, I forget what it was, but like it was like Bugs Bunny like comes to life or whatever. I love that movie. Or like not comes to life, but like is like alongside. Probably know what I mean. But yeah, I watched those kinds of things so much when I was younger. Like and like in general, like older animation, like I always loved like Disney's House of Mouse and stuff. So I was exposed to a lot of random like older shorts. I need to like get into that and like watch it again or whatever.
The attraction, to be named Zippity River Run, was to open in 1989. Disney's CEO at the time, a man named Michael Eisner, suggested/demanded that the Imagineers change the name from Zippity River Run to Splash Mountain in order to promote the company's 1984 surprise hit Splash, starring Tom Hanks. He
Oh.
reportedly also suggested they add a character from the film into the ride, which the Imagineers luckily pushed back against, but the name change remained. Splash Mountain opened on July 17,
crazy.
1989 in Disneyland Park in Anaheim, California.
I thought it was just because of
The
the
ride
splash.
contained no reference of the live-action portions of the film. A few notable differences between the film and the ride are Brer Frog taking the place of Uncle Remus as the narrator, and the replacement of the Tar Baby scene with a scene of Brer Fox trapping Brer Rabbit in a beehive. The ride was
remember
not
that.
marketed as a nostalgic trip through Disney's once classic and now infamous film, Song of the South. It was instead marketed as a high-octane, intense thrill ride. Interestingly, this was not an attempt to distance the ride from the controversial film. It was instead due to Eisner's desperate attempts to attract a young adult crowd to the parks, mostly his son Breck, who he used to measure how tubular any given ride was. This resulted in a very bizarre marketing campaign for Splash Mountain, especially in retrospect.
I was told that we could be the first to ride Splash Mountain, and we're ready to go.
Well, it's not open yet.
What is happening? What? I'll go.
Well, you know it is a thrill when you go downhill, 'cause you're riding on the mountain of your own free will, and you're zipping in a flash on a daring dash, down a waterfall so rapid that you go split splash. Splash Mountain. Zippity-doo-dah. Splash Mountain.
Honestly, this goes crazy.
My, oh my. Zip. Wonderful day. Zip.
Two more Splash Mountains
He's surrounded
would open
by
in the Magic
women
Kingdom in
because
Walt
he's
Disney
going
World
to
and in
Splash
Tokyo
Mountain.
Disneyland in 1992. This would be the last significant Song of the South related work to be released by Disney. The characters still appear in the parks and will make an occasional cameo with other classic Disney characters, and Disney will never turn down a reason to play Zippity-Doo-Dah. But other than that, Song of the South has been purposefully underutilized by the company. The film has not been released in the United States since its 1986 theatrical re-release. The only home video the film has seen have been from a few international distributors. The
If
most
they'll
recent
ever
statement
remake
from
it.
Disney has been from CEO Bob Iger himself, who stated that the film is, quote, antiquated and fairly offensive, indicating that a home video release would not come anytime soon. Many critics and public figures have taken sides on the issue of whether Disney should release Song of the South. Some believe that Disney should release the film as an educational tool, providing supplementary materials explaining the shortcomings and problematic parts of the film. Some claim that it is best to forget the film entirely. Others claim that the actual film is not nearly as bad as some believe, and Disney's refusal to release it only worsens the public's perception of it. Despite the lack of home video releases, a few copies of the film have found their way to the internet and are sometimes available for viewing. A conclusion as to just how offensive, racist, or problematic the film or Harris's work might be will certainly never be reached, and Disney may never release the film in any way. But with the available copies and plethora of literature on both sides of the argument, educating oneself is not difficult and should be encouraged, especially for those that are fans of Splash Mountain. The ride is now one of the most recognizable theme park rides of all time, with all three versions continuing to entertain adults and children alike. But those that visited Six Flags Over Georgia in its first decade of operation might notice something a bit too familiar in the Disney log flume. Tales of the Okefenokee might not have had a 50-foot drop, advanced audio animatronics, or the elaborate sculpting work that Splash Mountain did, but the similarities between the two attractions are almost too many to count. Some of Splash Mountain's elements are so similar to those of Tales of the Okefenokee that one might even think that the Disney attraction took inspiration from the Six Flags ride. Splash Mountain was the brainchild of Imagineer and Disney legend Tony Baxter. Baxter came up with the idea for the ride in 1983 while stuck in traffic. He was attempting to solve three issues at once: the lack of attractions in Disneyland's Bear Country, Disneyland president Dick Nunes' wish to have a log flume in the park, and the need for a new home for the America Sings animatronics after the attraction's inevitable closure. The solution to all three of these problems was Splash Mountain. One might wonder whether Baxter had ever made a trip to Six Flags Over Georgia and ridden Tales of the Okefenokee. One fan in particular actually had the opportunity to ask Baxter if he had ever ridden the Six Flags ride. Reportedly, Baxter lit up at the mention of the little-known ride and confirmed that he had in fact been on Tales of the Okefenokee. It is pretty remarkable that a forgotten ride at the small Six Flags Over Georgia could have influenced one of the best theme park rides of all time.
It is a really good. This is a really cool shot video. Yeah. I like the call of action at the end to like research it. I actually might do that. Watch the movie.
As we go floating gently round the bend. So the story goes in the Okefenokee, as everybody knows in the Okefenokee. When Mr. Fat Rabbit plays his little jokey, will fool
Plays his little jokey.
Mr. Bear.
So silly. Alright, so I do want to see Uncle Remus. Did he like give money back to this guy? I really want to know. I guess this doesn't really say anything about the. Wait, no, this is the influence. Okay, I see. Beatrix Potter? Oh, I thought it was like, something from Harry Potter. Okay. Let's go here. That's crazy. Okay. Okay. Did he like I really want to know. I want to know. Is there like anything about Okay, so royalties were modest. Rent a room house. That's a lot of rooms. Um, do It doesn't seem like I don't see anything here. Maybe he just like never made enough money for it to even like be a. Let's see. Do Plantation. Interesting. Dubious. I see. But it's not that what he felt is dubious. It's that like it's not known if he actually had an intimate connection with them, I guess. So yeah, I mean, I'm like realistically 1866 it's been like over a decade. And then like the book didn't get published until 28 years 24 years later after he left. Yeah, there's a good chance they were just like they passed away by then. Anyways, random rabbit hole I wanted to see. Let's like the video. That was pretty good. Definitely will watch more Defunctland. I'm excited to see what their longer videos go into, because obviously this was a little shorter than some of their other videos. Um, might be recording this a little late for Friday, the day it's releasing. Might not be releasing this at the time I meant to. But yeah, like I said earlier, I went to Islands of Adventure this week, so I'll try to talk about that more when it's relevant. I've never really ridden like a super scary roller coaster before, like with a loop to loop. The scariest one I rode was maybe like of Expedition Everest, I guess. But I rode like Velocicoaster. That was crazy. That was really fun. I I would ride that again and again and again. We waited in Hagrid's, which is like forever of a wait. That was like 3 hours. It was worth experiencing. But oh my god, that took so much time. And then I really wanted to go on Ripsaw because that felt like it had like a big splash, kind of like Splash Mountain, but it was closed like the entire time we were there. All right. Oh, those teenagers in there. Yeah, I mean, I cannot believe that. I don't even know. Right? It is incredible that we have footage and audio of the Six Flags ride. It's so interesting. It's left it running for us like 4 times through. I Monster Plantation must be so interesting. The guide has called the audio department from the park and they ripped him a copy off of the master tapes. The gentleman digitized it, and that is the audio you're hearing. That's so cool. It was really well done. Those carrots are awful, but they must have been absolutely horrifying to see engulfed in flames. Yeah, like imagine like being the person on the ride as that happens. That must be crazy. That's so funny. There is no movie. Nothing's yeah, right? Like we love we love that. Um Imagine going on Splash Mountain and seeing an animatronic of Tom Hanks there just chilling. That would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, those ads for Splash Mountain were insane. One of Disney's most well-known attractions get its name from a horrible Michael Eisner suggestion. Yeah, it's honestly not a bad name at all. Like the it tells you about the ride. I don't know why I wanted to read that. The amount of times Michael Eisner appears in the city series, you'd think he was some comical, secretive anime mastermind who keeps announcing his evil intentions, but everyone's too stupid to realize it. So true. Yeah, the way that the narrator brought up Harris's connection with the enslaved folks was quite good. Zippity Doodah was so good. I actually don't know what When You Wish Upon a Star is off the top of my head. Wait, did Splash Mountain get replaced? Wait, it got replaced? I might cry. It's only in Tokyo? I didn't know that. Tiana's Bayou Adventure. Is this like... Okay, wait, I mean, this could still be good. I can see that. Okay, it's still like the same ride. Wait, now I want to go back to Disney. I haven't been there in so long. It's kind of cool. I can see that working pretty well, honestly. Both versions of the ride. Okay. I don't want to like spoil myself. But do they not have Zippity Doodah anymore? That's so sad. I mean, that's still cool. I'd be excited to try that. Singing Carrot Went Up in Flames was such a banger. So funny. The only thing okay, 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 I get it, I get it. Are there any other comments? Okay, we're chill. We can move on. This is interesting. I'll definitely watch more of these videos. Probably will try to like I really wanted to watch do like obviously like the fast pass one. Like I'm curious. It's an hour and 43 minutes. Like what could this be about? Very interesting. And then there's also like the Disney Channel theme one. Like because I loved that theme when I was younger. So I'm just like invested. Kid cities. I lived near Wanna City. Um at least a it was Wanna City like wait, did I just like dox myself? Oh, I guess I kinda did. Yeah, like, this thing, like, I wanna read and learn more. This has to be, like, a big part of the video, surely, where kids can do what they wanna do. What a banger. Anyways, thank you for watching, folks. I hope you have a great rest of your day. Enjoy, um, or night whenever you're watching this. Bye. Hey folks, thank you for watching the video. Remember to like on YouTube, follow on YouTube, subscribe on Twitch, and have a great rest of your day if you want. I guess I don't really like tell you what to do, but yeah, have a good one. Bye.